Are we going?
Yeah.
We are. That's hilarious. Hi. Hey, it's Crafty here. Are you ready for some next level steps for guitar? Let's get right into them right now. Alright, so we're going to be talking about the next level steps for guitar, and the first next level steps that you need to make sure that you've got down are power chords. I should have an electric guitar for this, but you'll be able to get the picture. So on an acoustic guitar, it won't sound as rock as it would with an electric, but I'll demonstrate anyway. Basically, it's just that type of sound. It's a very rock type of sound. Very important rule of thumb with power chords is that whatever strings that you are holding down with your left hand are the only ones that are being strummed by the right hand. So, for instance, I'm just basically just holding down these two notes. It's the 3rd fret on the A string and 5th fret on the D string. And so now I'm being careful with my right hand to only strum those two strings. Because if I start doing more, that's not what I want. And if I start going down further the other way, doesn't actually sound too bad, but you know, I might start playing on. That doesn't sound good. Whereas if I'm going, just sounds a lot more accurate. And if you're plugged into an amp with heaps of distortion very loudly, then those unwanted notes are going to be very so we don't want that. Okay, another next level step is playing bar chords. Check these out if you don't already know them. So the E chord here is not a bar chord, but if I were to switch my fingers around so that my pinky is not the one that's free, but my first one is free, and then shift up 1 fret, and then basically I kind of call this finger there my finger capo. All of a sudden now, instead of being an E chord, it's an F chord. And that can be any chord. If you wanted a B chord, well then you just got to find, where's B? 7th fret. If you wanted a D, it's on the 10th fret. But perhaps you could just play that D, right? But then if you wanted a D flat, well then it's 1 fret down. Okay, next on our list here is practicing with a metronome, being able to control the speed that you play at. So I've got 120 BPM here clocked up on this actual metronome. Yeah. I'm going to play along. Let's try a bit faster. So, I don't know, 139. Let's see if I can play along with that. Sometimes when you learn how to play kind of fast, you start thinking, yeah, I've really got this. Except being able to play slower. I'm going to go down to, say, 70 BPM. It's a bit of a weird concept, but playing slower is actually harder if you're used to playing faster. So let's see if I can play in time with this. 2, 3. If you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't have one of these, well, you can get them in an app form. Some little tuners actually even have a little metronome function as well. And there's even free metronomes online that you can access, so check them out. You might be thinking, I play in time fine, I don't need it. Well, test yourself out. If you're always perfect with a metronome, well then, good on you. It's the best way of just knowing for sure. All right, can you tune by ear? That's another really important next level step, because it's really easy in this day and age to just go, I've got something that can just tell me exactly how far I need to tune. And I've got this thing, it's called a robo winder, automatically tunes for you. So easy. Why would you want to tune by ear? Well, what if you don't have one of those things lying around? Yeah, for me, I find that having the skill of being able to tune by ear, it's just an invaluable skill that it'll get you out of trouble, but it'll also make you more hypersensitive to when things just aren't quite right. And there's nothing worse than if you're recording, for instance, and you're not quite in tune and you think you get the best take, and then you listen back and you go, damn it, I wasn't in tune, because you couldn't tell fast enough. So yeah, tune by ear, practice it. It requires practice. It took me a long time to develop. So just while we're on tuning, so do you know that there's a bunch of different types of tunings? A lot of people just think that E, A, D, G, B, E are the open strings, but you can have drop D. You can have complete open tunings where it's open D major, or nothing to do with the letter D perhaps. It could be open G or open C or open E. There's a lot of different open tunings, so check out some different tunings. They give you a bunch of different sounds. Yeah, so try it out. You can get a heap of different sounds that you just can't with standard tuning. A lot of other guitar teachers and experienced musicians would probably say that this is the most important next level step for a guitarist, and it's knowing the notes on the fretboard. Being able to play and knowing that that was a C sharp to D and then a G sharp to A. So straight away, if I know those notes really consciously, I could find them elsewhere on the fretboard. Or if I wanted to go onto a piano and play those notes, well then I'd just be able to just find where they are. If I knew how to play something on piano, well then I would be able to transfer it to guitar by knowing what the notes are. So check out the notes on the fretboard. Yeah, it's such an important thing to know as a guitarist. So earlier I mentioned pentatonic scales. We also need to know as a guitarist just the simple major and minor scales. So here's the very first ever major scale I learned. Just incorporating all of the notes in the open area, whereas you can actually do that there, or if you start here on the 8th fret, then you can get 2 octaves going up and down. And so with the major scale, it's important to know just a classic minor scale as well. Now you might be wondering, why do I need to know these scales though? Well, God, I could probably do a whole video, a whole series on why you need to know scales and incorporating them. But just trust me that if you don't know any scales, just learn those basic ones. You'll start noticing how they're embedded into all different types of music just by analyzing other songs. But then by knowing the scales, then you can create your own music from those scales as well. Can't stress enough how important they are. So do it for me, if not for you. Okay, next on our list is reading chord charts. Could I give you a chart about 2 minutes before going on stage and say, can you play this? Go. If not, well, checking out some chord charts is a really good way to be able to play a whole song from start to end straight away. Some of them might be harder to read than others, but as I say, it gives you all of the information from start to end, being able to play chords to a song. Sometimes chords change around a lot in a song, and so rather than in comparison to an easier song where you could just scribble out 3 or 4 chords and they're the same for the whole way through, it might get from a verse to a chorus where it changes, and then in the bridge there's different chords as well. Then maybe in the solo section there's more different chords, and then when you get to the outro at the end there's more chords, more different chords. So having a chord chart will just be able to let you play from start to end. If you can read it right and play it right from reading it, well then you should be able to just play a whole song. Easy. Do you ever play standing up? Do you ever practice standing up while you're playing? I used to know a guy, I can't believe that there is actually a guy that needed to actually practice around the other way. The only time he ever practiced was at his band rehearsal and when he was doing gigs. He never practiced by himself. So he needed to practice actually sitting down. But for the most part, generally in the human race, what you'll do is you'll practice a lot sitting down. And then all of a sudden, you might have a situation where you're about to play and you're standing up and then you realize, holy crap, this is actually really different. So practice standing up. Well, this is a bit of just a general philosophy to make you more well-rounded as a musician, but learning to play songs, ones that you don't like, is a very important next level step. Because let's face it, a lot of us, all we do is we just play stuff that we like, that play songs that we listen to, or play a certain genre, a style of music that is easy to connect with because that's what we like. Orally pleasing to our ears, okay? So if there's a bunch of music styles that you know that you've never even listened to, well then, firstly I would just say try listening to some different music styles. It'll help you get a lot more well-rounded, but then actually playing the different music styles. Years ago when people used to ask me, so what sort of music do you like? I would say my catchphrase was anything but country. And then all of a sudden I got into some musical situations where I needed to play some country music. And I couldn't believe it. And I can't believe that I'm saying this now, because the younger me would just be almost vomiting right now. But I like country now. Like, I actually really like it. I don't want to listen to it all the time necessarily, but to play it, it's actually really fun. There's different types of techniques, there's different ways of using the instrument. So I would say for you, if there's a genre that you know that you don't really get into, well then just try and open up your mind, open up your ears, and open up the possibilities with this. Okay, so do you ever perform? If the answer is never, well, even if it was just in front of a family member or a friend, or you could even, I never thought about this before, but you could even just play in front of your pet, if you have a pet. Pretend that they're an audience member and just get used to being in front of other human beings. It just brings out another certain side of you that you didn't know was there. If you only ever play for yourself and that's all you want to do, well then I understand. Because sometimes having that own solitary space where it's just you and your instrument is all you need to be fulfilled with your musical journey. But involving other people as well is something that you're closing yourself off to those good elements that can happen out of it. So try performing. If you think that you're ready to try an open mic session, well then that would be the best way to try and get yourself used to being on either a stage or just in front of more than just family and friends audience, rather than getting yourself a full-on gig first. Because a full-on gig is usually more than just, say, 2 or 3 songs that an open mic session will allow for, and it can be such a big jump that your nerves might take over. Whereas having just a small open mic session, it'll just be a really good way of just dipping your toe in the water, getting the hang of this new thing, performing. And just a quick little plug, if you happen to live in South Australia, then follow my Crafty Music Man Instagram or Facebook page to find out the details for when my next open mic session that I'm running is. Okay, we're getting through this list. I love it. Do you ever record yourself? This is one of the most important things that you could ever do, because it really just gives you a bare bones representation of exactly what you sound like. And sometimes it can be really confronting. But if you've never ever recorded yourself before, even just get your phone out. But for me, back in my day, yeah, I sound old saying that, it was a cassette player that I used to plug in and record with. And I miss those days. That was kind of really cool. Just listening back having to rewind the cassette first and then listening back going, wow, is that actually what I sound like? So even if it's just with a crappy little phone quality recording, do it. Record yourself. It'll be the best way of checking out exactly where you're up to. Right, here's a bit of a philosophy type of thing to think about. It's really important to consciously know why you want to learn this skill. If you ever have that feeling of giving up, it's like it's too hard, knowing really clearly what the reasons are for you wanting to pursue this instrument is just going to help you over any of those hurdles. And it'll help you connect with other musicians that have similar goals. Okay, another next level step is being creative. Do you ever find that you just stop being analytical, just let all of those preconceived notions go and just create something? I find that for me that it's the most rewarding element of playing guitar. It's where you created something that wasn't there before. If it wasn't for you, sometimes it's just mucking around, or sometimes I sit down and I think to myself, I want to create something. And so there's many ways of creating, but if you've never done it, it's something that you should have a crack at. Give it a go. Be creative. Okay, we're nearly through this list. I'm going to ask you, how often do you practice? If you don't practice every day, can I suggest that you figure out a way to just pick up the instrument every day? If you think to yourself, oh my God, that sounds like so much work, well then why don't you just give yourself 1 minute and just see how that goes. 1 minute at least every day. You don't have to work on anything necessarily. It doesn't need to be work. It just needs to be regularly going through the motions of connecting with the instrument that you love. If you're not doing that, what will happen is a day or two might go and then you'll pick up the instrument and then you'll have that feeling of rustiness, or that like, oh, I got to dust off the cobwebs. It's not feeling the same way that it did a few days ago. So once a day, figure it out, even if it's just 1 minute. Practice as regularly as you can. Lucky last on this list is, do you have a one-on-one tutor / coach / teacher? I, for myself, have taught myself a lot of things on the instruments that I can play, but I'm really thankful for my one-on-one teachers that give me that personalized one-on-one valuable attention that you can't get from somebody like me talking on a video right now, right? So I find that the progress that I have with my one-on-one students is so much better. So if you can seek out someone in your neighborhood close by so that you don't have to travel too far, that's really good. But one thing that I used to do is I used to catch the train. It's about a 52-minute train ride into the city, and then it was about a 20-minute walk to the music store, and I did that once a week. And I just found that that was really valuable, because I would not always be able to get around this, but I would always try and be able to just, in the corner of the train, I'd try and get a bunch of practice in. And so then I was pretty warmed up and ready to rock when I got to my lesson. And then I had the whole train ride home to be able to think about, well, what was it that we actually went through in the lesson? And it just helped make it a stronger, more profound experience for me. So if you haven't got yourself a teacher, well then look into it. You won't regret it. All right, so before I go, how did I go with that list? How did you go? Did you find that there was heaps of things that you learned, or did you find that you basically know everything? Well, either way, it's a good thing for you to know. Yeah, so if there's anything that I forgot, well then leave me a comment below. Okay, last thing before I go, I have a free ebook download for you. It's called Actually, How Good Are You? It's really good to have that brutal self-analysis type of critique of where am I actually at and where do I want to go on this crazy musical journey. What this ebook has, it's got a bunch of methods to figure that out. It's also got the action steps that you need to take. It's all in the ebook. So download it. There's a link below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed it. Keep going with those next level steps on guitar. And if you are like me and play any other instruments as well, well then I've got another video on the subject of that instrument. So go, check it out now. Go, bye, see ya.